The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
From Mallory Square in Key West to the Governor's Mansion in Tallahassee and all points beyond, you're listening to the Florida Beer Podcast, powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com, your source for all things related to the craft beer community in the Sunshine State. And now your host, Dave Butler.
And it's time for another episode of the Florida Beer Podcast, powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com. This is Dave, your host and author. Today we are in Spring Hill, Florida. And if you have never heard of Spring Hill, Florida, not shocked, it is in Hernando County. And if you've never heard of Hernando County, not shocked. If you can think of where Pinellas County is, home of St. Petersburg or Hillsborough, home of Tampa, you go up one county and that's Pasco, and up one county and that's Hernando. Home to Weeki Wachee, home to a couple of breweries, but one of those is our brewery for today, Tidal Brewing. Now, Tidal Brewing is kind of an interesting location. You can almost immediately tell what that building was in a past life the moment you get there, because the gas pumps have been taken away, but all of the awnings that were over the pumps, those still remain. There was also a detached car wash, and that is the amazing home of a very hot during the summer brew system. And of course, where the rest of the gas station was, that's now the tap room and lounging area, so on and so forth. Tidal Brewing is nothing without the owners, the husband and wife team of Dan and Maxine Peitzman. Both of them used to be teachers before they left those positions to run Tidal Brewing full time. In fact, I remember when I first met them, when they had just opened, they, I think, were actually still kind of had one foot in the door of teaching and one foot in the door of brewing after work, but they have since retired from their teaching positions in Hernando County to devote their time full-time to Tidal Brewing. And they've got a fantastic place with a lot of absolutely amazing beers and a really good hold on the community. So if you haven't been, it's absolutely fantastic. If you have been, hopefully you'll learn something a little bit new, because we are going to be in Tidal Brewing in Spring Hill, Florida with Dan and Maxine. Enjoy. I guess, what do you want to be known as? Just co-owners?
Sure.
Is there something special that you want to separate?
No, I mean, we are co-owners. Yeah, husband and wife.
Okay.
I mean, we have delineated roles in the tap room and the brewery, but yeah, we're co-owners.
Okay, that works.
Yeah, I do beer and money. She does the tap room and events. So
I was going to say, who has the harder job?
that's debatable.
Yeah, I think it depends on any given day, honestly.
Yeah.
So
Because there's a difference between, and I've talked to a lot of people, brewing the right stuff. And even if the right stuff is there, if you don't have the people coming in, there's nothing you can do about it. And so that makes your job bringing people into the tap room so much harder.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that nowadays, like, everybody is looking for such an experience when they go out. So, that's essential to be able to provide. But yeah, I think it depends on the day. I really do. Because obviously he has to maintain a quality product and I have to maintain a quality experience. So the two kind of go hand in hand.
Gotcha. And this is Hernando County, right?
Correct.
And it was funny because we were talking about a lot of the breweries that are in the area and collaborations and would you say that this section of Florida kind of has its own scene? Are you sort of detached from the Bay, or is it still technically the Bay? It just takes longer to get people to come up.
I would say that we could be considered the greater Tampa area because we will get people that'll do day trips and they'll pop to us, Marker, Broad Street, which is a new one up here. But as far as like regular customers, I not very regularly. It still is a 40-minute drive from Tampa. But as far as like the beer scene, I think we could be incorporated in that. We only have 3 breweries in this county, so I don't know if there's enough to say it's its own thing. What do you think?
I don't think that it's necessarily its own thing, but like Dave said, it's definitely a part of a bigger thing. I do think that, Hernando County is getting more respect in the beer world. And like Dave said, that people are definitely making the effort to come out and see us, which is great. Not just from Tampa, but we get people from Orlando. We get people from further north as well, too, making a day trip and making rounds. So,
I mean, being right off 589 is amazing because once you're going north, you just pop on, pop off. So,
yeah, I would always kind of would assume that it would be Hernando and Pasco. Because Pasco is small, but it's sort of mighty, but it seems to be close. And I know after speaking with people in Pinellas that Hillsborough and Pinellas, they don't cross bridges. They stay in their counties and they don't really go anywhere. Exactly, which blows my mind, being so used to crossing counties, going an hour for lunch or dinner is no problem.
Well, we definitely have a good representation of Pasco County that comes in here as well.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say that, our biggest clientele is, of course, going to be our regular customers right in our backyard. The ones that come in several times a week, that support our regular events, that like a good beer. And then, of course, people in neighboring county, Pasco.
Gotcha. And I definitely want to talk about the regulars and everything, but I kind of want to step back a little bit because you are one of a good size contingent in the state of Florida and actually in the country that come to brewing from teaching. And it's amazing how many former teacher, current brewers there are in the state. I can definitely think of Paradolia right off the top of my head because I know he taught 4th grade.
That's awesome.
And so why do you think so many teachers, what is it about brewing that appeal to your teacher sensibilities?
Should I do the PC answer or the real answer?
Do the real answer, please.
Well, I would say a lot of teachers like booze, first off and foremost. I would also say that the way teaching is nowadays, it's one of those things that the big thing that we thought when we were teaching is I just didn't know if I could do that for 30 years and it wasn't sustainable for me. So my brain, and she kind of pushed it, was just sitting there being like, all right, let's try this. Let's take that jump because why not? And like I said, teachers like to drink, and making beer is an easy way to make something to drink. And
I don't know. I think it's a lot more than that. He doesn't give himself enough credit because I also think that with him being a science teacher, he already had kind of the basic mechanics there in his brain to be able to become an effective brewer. He has the biology and the chemistry background, which anybody can go in and make a beer, but to make a good beer, it's a much greater understanding than that. And then just from my point of view, with being a former teacher, I was a former science teacher as well. And one of the things that I really loved about teaching was getting to just kind of learn on a regular basis, but also share what I've learned. And I still get to really do that on a daily basis here. But my clientele is obviously different than it was in the classroom. I'm not teaching children, I'm teaching adults. And I have a lot of people that come in here and have a genuine interest in the beer and the product and what we do. And so it's I'm still teaching, but in a different way.
I've always said that if it wasn't for the alcohol, beer would be a great way to teach STEAM concepts.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree. I'm curious, though. Do you know any breweries that are owned by ex-cops? Or I know there's a bunch ex-military.
Oh, the ex-police?
Because I was about to say that's or firefighters. Those are big drinkers, too.
I know some firefighters that were brewers, but ex-military is the other big one.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. It's almost difficult. It's a lot of them have kind of said, this was the way to blow off steam because the military was so regimented, and in this you can just sort of relax and be yourself. But ex-police, ex-firefighters, only one ex-firefighter comes to mind, and I know he's not brewing anymore. And then I know there's an ex-police officer who's the master distiller at Wicked Dolphin in Cape Coral. Cool.
Neat. Okay.
Yeah. And you talk to him on the tour, so I'm like, yeah, you were a cop. He's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. But it's like, yeah, okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was just curious.
No, absolutely. Do you have any of your former students come in here and be like,
yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I haven't been teaching for what, six years now? So yeah, they're all coming in. They're all turning 22, 23, 24, and they come in and I'm like, no way.
Yeah, and I have students starting to come in as well too. Because I taught middle school and Dave taught high school, so mine were a few years behind his. But yeah, it's always crazy when you see a familiar face and you have to kind of think back on like, when did I teach you? Are you really 21? Like, let me see that ID. So
and when you remember their name, they're like, no way, Mr. Peitzman, no way.
Yeah. But it's been fun because we largely are having, we had great experiences with the kids when we were teaching. Yeah. We were both rated highly effective teachers the entire time we were in Hernando County. And we just had a really good rapport with our students. So it's the same when they walk in these doors. You know, it's like seeing just like an old friend, an old familiar face. Yeah.
And it was that science background that the two of you had. That's why Tidal is what it is.
Yes.
Because you're not necessarily, are we close to the beach? We're not really.
We are close to the water.
The water.
So,
the water.
Yes.
There's a difference between the two.
Hernando Beach, I guess it does have one beach, Pine Island. But Hernando Beach is not actually a beach. And that's about 20 minutes away from here.
Okay. I didn't realize that we were that close to.
But also part of the name is not so much from like, of course we're in Florida and we're close to the coastline, but it also comes like more from like our shared interest in my background. So I went to school for marine science. So I've always had a love of the ocean. And, you know, Dave kind of shares that passion of just like nature and being outside and environmental science. So when we decided we were going to open the brewery, we wanted to kind of have like a nautical spin. And when we came up with the name Tidal, we were really looking for something that was going to be just like short, easy to remember, but also that we could spin a variety of different ways for merchandise and things like that. And Tidal, we really just felt like encompassed it all. Like we could go so many different directions with it.
And it definitely, when you come in, you take a look, it feels like it's more of a obvious grab on the fact that we're in Florida and it's deeper than that. No pun intended.
Yeah,
I apologize.
Of course. And, you know, we had to lean into our location a little bit too. So like.
Oh, the location. I was actually talking to somebody about this yesterday and they thought that it was the funniest thing that they've ever heard. So.
And well, honestly, that's,
car wash?
the space is great. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, we are so fortunate to have that space because it saves us so much room in our tap room. Like we would be so limited and we wouldn't have this like nice open airy seating in here if we had to fit all of the brewing equipment in here.
It wouldn't happen.
Yeah. So
yeah, it would be an entirely different experience. And it's kind of cool because like the car wash, it saved us a lot of money actually being out there because the drainage was already cut, you know, and
I never thought about this. So
exactly.
this wasn't what Exxon or Mobil. Looks like it might have been a Mobil.
I
gas
think
station.
It was a Mobil. Yes.
So the place, the overhang where the pumps were, that's still in existence. That's the parking lot for the strip. And you fit all of the brewing equipment into the detached car wash.
Yes.
Put some garage doors on it, put some picnic tables outside, and yes.
Did you ever put air conditioning in there?
No.
Oh, so I would assume it gets a little toasty.
Dave gets nice and sweaty in the summer.
Yeah, he definitely definitely deals with the elements out there. It's not an easy job in the summer, that's for sure.
Once that boil gets going, everything condensates, everything sweats, the glycol is constantly, it's for what it is though, it's served us well.
Yeah, it's perfect. Like you said, I never thought about the drainage issue because you know, especially since this is a pre-existing facility, you didn't get to cut lines the way that you wanted to. But how much work did you really have to do to convert that into the box that you needed it to be a good brewing space?
The biggest thing was the car wash equipment that was in there prior to us moving in.
Oh, so they didn't get rid of it?
They didn't get rid of it. It was still there.
And I did not have the resources to get it out of there because it was some significant equipment. So I kept on contacting the landlord and they're like, just sell it. And I'm like, I don't know how to sell car wash equipment. That's not my forte. So eventually we got that out of there. But besides that, we resealed the floors, ran the electrical. That was it. Put doors on it.
There was a lot of nice perks to this location because even outside of that, which saved us money with having the drainage already there, and we didn't have to do a lot of conversion over to make it like a usable brew house inside the tap room. We already had the coolers as well too, which is another big cost for a lot of breweries.
I never thought of it like that.
Yes, because it was the convenience store. Yeah. So that was also money saved for us. That was just like a no-brainer on our end. Like, okay, of course this makes sense.
Because the angles of it just don't make sense for a brewery. It looks weird, but when you say it like that, now I can see how it worked.
It's the pieces that kind of came together. There was obviously those two big things that really were like, okay, these are money savers for us. In terms of the location being as close to 589 as we are, we figured, okay, we're going to get people to come see us because they have an easy way to get down 589. And then not only that, in the plaza, having the food-based neighbors, that all kind of just aligned for us. Yeah. And we were like, this makes sense. This is going to be our space.
And did it always have to be Hernando? Because, obviously you were teaching in Hernando, but in terms of brewers, was Marker 48 open by the time? Okay,
I think they opened like 2 years before us.
Yes.
3?
So that's not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was a little bit of a risk. But so did it always have to be Hernando for you to make this happen?
I don't think that was ever a direct discussion that it had to be in this county. I think we only looked at like this place. We only looked at this place, didn't we? Did we look anywhere else?
Maybe one other place. But I think for us, the big thing is it's like, because we're very close with where we live to Pasco County as well. Like, we didn't really care where we were. We just knew that we had to be close enough because we were going to be the ones that were in charge. And we needed to be able to get here in a reasonable amount of time. And if it ever did transpire to where we were working here every day, we didn't want to be driving over 30 minutes to get to work. So I think we just wanted it to be like realistic for us. Obviously, we knew we were taking a little bit of a risk with there only being one other brewery in the county, but we had the hopes that the county would grow just like it's done. So,
and municipality wise, this is Brooksville or Spring Hill?
It is unincorporated.
Unincorporated. So you had to work with the county.
It's Spring Hill, but Spring Hill is not an incorporated city.
Interesting. So how was it working with the county on zoning and production and all of those things?
Long. Arduous.
It's funny because and I would assume that there was a lot of going back to this education on your part. Most, not that they were, and I've heard the story before, not that they were necessarily antagonistic. They just had no idea.
That was the biggest thing because we were a brewery and only one other place had gone through the same. They didn't really know how to categorize us. So there was a lot of, I would go in this time and they say that, and then I'd go in that time and they say this. It took us over 1.5 years to get the doors open after we started paying rent. So yeah, it was a pain in the butt.
Yeah. It's always an interesting story to see. And then of course, what was it like bringing craft beer to this area? Did you have a whole lot of people that knew what craft beer could be, or did you have to really, the early years, kind of tool the recipes easy and then bring them in eventually to where you wanted to go?
Oh, that's a loaded question. You want to start with that?
Yeah, I think, from my perspective with just being in the tap room, we knew that there was going to be a little bit of a learning curve for people because there wasn't as much knowledge about craft beer in this area. It definitely wasn't established like it was in Tampa.
Like for a lot of people, the only brewery that they've ever been to was Marker at that point.
And a lot of people, their drink of choice in terms of beer was the domestic beer. And even to this day still is. But, when we first opened the doors, it was really about showing people like, hey, you can come in, because a lot of people have this idea that craft beer is only an IPA and they get really intimidated. So the first step was really just kind of getting people to come in the door and just be willing to do that and hear us out, because we knew that once we could get people up to the bar and have a conversation with them, we could find something that they could drink and that they would like.
Most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. But our biggest goal here has always been to provide an immense variety in terms of beer. We wanted to have light, dark, hoppy, in between, and then really stay true to our roots and provide old world styles, more traditional beers. And I think that the community has really grown to embrace that. And even to this day, we still get people that come in that haven't been here or their drink of choice is a domestic beer. And I think that they just understand that when they walk in the doors, because of our reputation in the community, that we're not going to steer them wrong. We're going to find it might not be the Miller Lite or the Bud Light that they're, used to drinking, but we're going to have something
Tidal
for
Premium,
them.
Let's go.
We're going to have something for them that is going to be comparable, and they trust us to do that.
Yeah, I saw the Tidal Premium. It seems like that was built to be the intro.
I make that beer every 2 weeks.
It's definitely one of our best sellers.
And distro, too. Fly through it.
Interesting. Do you see a lot of trends changing with the more experienced craft beer drinkers? Because I've noticed that has sort of happened, and what was very popular when you opened 8 years ago, what the trends were very different from what the trends are looking like now.
Yes. It's not insane, the difference, but I will say that we got very lucky because we were doing lagers from the start, and everything has kind of moved towards lagers. People still like their IPAs, but it's not like it was 3 or 4 years ago where there were people that they would only drink a 7 or 8% hazy. That's the only thing they would drink, or an 11 or 12% bourbon barrel aged stout.
Those ABVs are going down.
Yeah. We definitely try and keep stuff down. We even dropped a couple of our box and things like that from 8, 9 down to 6, 7, just so they can get a pint of it and it's a little bit more approachable. But as far as
it even goes back to just offering the variety that we have, because we offer so many different styles. Like some of the more seasoned craft beer drinkers, like you said before, when they would come in and they would just be knocking back the higher ABV beers the entire time. Now they have the ability to choose. So they might still like that beer, but they don't want to drink it the entire time they're here. Now they have the ability to kind of bounce around a little bit, especially at our place, because of the variety that we offer.
I mean, there's still the guys that if we don't have a 10% stout up there, they're like, wait. Where's my beer? What am I going to drink today?
I mean, you're always going to have people like that, though. Like from the taproom perspective, you have people that like to bounce around, and you have people that when they find a beer, that is the beer they stick to until that beer is not on tap anymore. But again, I think it just, people's tastes change over time. I think that it's good, and I know I keep harping on the variety, but because of our location and where we are, and because we never know on any given day if we're going to have the more seasoned craft beer drinker coming in, or if we're going to have just a regular person in the area that is coming in for the first time and isn't as knowledgeable about craft beer.
And they only like nut brown ales.
Exactly. Having what we have to offer is essential to our business here. And I think that's what has helped us thrive in our area.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because it sounds like, and I've spoken to some brew pub brewers, and it's very difficult for them because they have, they may have 8 taps, but 4 of them, this is what you must have on tap at all times. You have that feeling. It's like, can you ever think of a day where you don't brew Tidal Premium anymore?
Not Tidal Premium. I think that one is permanent. There's probably 3 or 4 beers we have. I mean, the beauty of it is that we don't have 8 taps. We have 20.
Yes, we have 20 taps, 16 are beer, and we only have 4 of those 16 that stay on all the time.
Okay.
So you're talking about 3/4 of that menu is rotating all of the time. It's seasonal. It's depending on, what type of ingredients we're trying to use up. We're always looking to make similar yet different beers to replace other beers. We're trying to get people, and this is a part of the educating thing that we're doing here, is we're trying to get people to come in and try a beer, find a beer that they like, and then when it goes off tap, not be heartbroken and be willing to try our suggestion of what they should have next.
That's got to be a difficult conversation for some people, that I would assume.
For some people it is, but I think that a lot of people, like I said, and this is about building trust with the community as well, too. Like, we're going to be going into our 8th year of business this year. I think a lot of people know that when they come in here for a beer, that we're not going to lead them in the wrong direction. There is going to be something that we can find for them. Very rarely do we have a person come in and they just cannot find anything to drink. But again, we're just trying to instill in people that craft beer is a very broad thing. There's a lot to choose from, and there's a lot to suit many different palates, or even your palate at different times of your life and your year.
That makes sense.
But as far as I get a lot of, because we have so many taps, I still get that ability to come in one day and be like, all right, what grains do I have? What do I feel like making today? And I still get to do that, which I like.
I always love asking this question. Are there any styles that you love that you have tried to introduce and have not worked in any way, shape, or form?
Oh,
there are definitely styles that are less popular. You know, when you have a beer list of 16 different beers on tap at any given time, there's always going to be one or two that are just going to be toward the bottom. And it's not because they're a bad beer or a poorly made beer. It's just because they, you know, maybe are less popular, or we've noticed here at our business that language is really important too. So like how we advertise the beer on the sign, because even though we have the bartenders and we train the bartenders to be able to talk about the beer, not everybody that comes in wants to have a conversation. They want to look at the menu and decide for themselves. So like here's a very simple example. Our Vienna lager, a lot of people don't know what Vienna lager means. Okay. So when we would have it on the list as Vienna lager, it wasn't getting ordered that often, but really it's a very popular style of beer.
One of my favorites.
Exactly. And a lot of times when I'm able to talk to people about a Vienna lager, I tell them, okay, a commercial example would be like Yuengling, you know, do you like Yuengling? Do you drink Yuengling? That sort of thing. But we found for our menu, we actually advertise our Vienna lager as our amber lager.
With parentheses underneath Vienna.
Interesting.
So Vienna is still listed there for people that have a little bit more knowledge about, you know, what that style is. But for a common person that maybe doesn't have that breadth of beer knowledge, they know what amber is. They know if they like that flavor or not, or like that appearance or not. And then they order based off of that.
And once we did that, it flew. So nomenclature is a big thing.
It really is. It really is. I mean, is it going to work for all of our beers?
No.
Not necessarily. There's still always going to be a few beers that are just at the bottom of the list for whatever reason. It doesn't, like I said, mean that they're bad, but
our poor British Pale Ale right now.
Yeah, the British Pale Ale's having a hard time.
But it's a slow
But that's another one, because people come in and they see Pale Ale, they think American Pale Ale. So like,
and those two are very
very different.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, if we have the opportunity to talk to the customer, that's where I can get into more of the conversation of, no, this is going to be a lot more malt forward. Is that something that you like? But again, we don't always have the ability to talk, depending on how busy we are, depending on the customer, if they want to talk to us. So, but yeah, I mean, it's...
What else do you call that? Very malty, slightly bitter. It's a British Pale Ale. There's nothing else you can call
I don't know.
Without putting like levels on the board, but even then, I feel like that might get confusing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And that's okay. I mean, we're okay with it because, like I said, having 16 taps is an undertaking, and we know that. But that's the way we like it, you know? So we understand that there's going to be some beers that are just going to move a little slower, and then maybe we wait a little longer to try making them again, or maybe we don't make them, or like Dave said earlier, maybe we try making them at a lower ABV, or we try lightening them up, or, you know, we tweak things a little bit to try and see what our clientele is liking.
And sometimes it's just the timing. Like we made a Leish beer 2 years ago and it flew. But we made a Leish beer last year, and it was pretty slow. So same beer, same everything, just different year. I don't know.
That's remarkable.
Sometimes you're trying to explain it, and there's just no rationale. So
it seems like the community has still been very welcoming and embracing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And we've done nothing. Thank God, we've done nothing but grow consistently.
Well, that's especially nowadays. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not the case with some people.
Of course.
So it's always good to hear. There's always been an interest in what kind of the reverse is in terms of the events that you host and the things that you do with the community. Have you ever tried to really focus on not just being in here, but a part of and ingratiating yourself into the community and trying to really sort of focus? Because you were mentioning like the event that you just threw last night for them.
For Barn Patrol, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's called, they call it Paw Patrol?
Barn Patrol.
Barn Patrol.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
that's funny.
I know, it's cute.
So was that just always a part of what you wanted to do? Or is that just who you are?
That's
I think that, I like to think of us as like a community hub. We're open 7 days a week. Not very many businesses can say that they are, which I think is pretty remarkable. So people know that they can come in here on any given day of the week, of the month, of the year. We're literally only closed on Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then if we have like a major hurricane or something. And part of that to me means working with other members of the community. So I really love the idea of collaboration in business, and I love collaborating with different industries. And that's something that I've really worked hard to do here. I think that there are so many other great small business owners outside of just breweries that have something to offer to the brewery setting, and that when you collaborate with them, you can make a really amazing thing happen. So, we try and do a lot of charity work. We try and at least donate once a month to somebody, by hosting an event in here or raising money, whatever we can do. And then I try and work with a lot of other just like local small businesses to just bring unique things here to the tap room.
It's kind of amazing. Do you think, since you are about to celebrate your 8th anniversary, do you think that the Dave and Maxine that were here when you opened on day one could have seen this and had this in their wildest dreams?
I don't think so.
As successful as it's been and how well we've been embraced, no.
No, I don't think so. I think when we first opened, we were just, two people hoping that this thing that we were betting on was going to work. I really, for me, in being a wife, like all I really wanted to do was support my husband, and he had this hobby and he was very talented. And for me, that was enough to be like, all right, we should try this out. We had been a couple that enjoyed going to breweries. I had experience in just going to other places, seeing what the industry was like. I liked it. I embraced it. And I wanted to see how we can make that work for us. And I think that that's all I could have hoped for, was just that we could get this thing going and just hope that people would see it for what we wanted it to be. But yeah, I had no idea that it was going to turn into this. And we're very happy to be here. We love what we do. He loves getting to make beer every single day, which is great. I love just the community interaction. I love just getting to see people enjoying themselves in this space that we've created, and using our space for everything, for, a work from home environment, a family gathering, taking their friends in from out of town. Like, there are so many reasons that people come into the tap room, and I love that. I think that's just so unique and just so fun.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations, and thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
So that is it for Tidal Brewing. We're going to be taking a 1-week break, and then we've got a couple very interesting, very different episodes that we have planned coming up. So definitely make sure to check us out. The best thing to do if you are interested, and hopefully you are, follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Just search for Florida Beer Blog. You'll find us. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. If you want to reach out to us, you can do so at floridabeerblog@gmail.com. Our webpage is floridabeerblog.com and floridabeerpodcast.com. And when you search floridabeerpodcast.com, you're going to find out that we are proudly operated by the good people at Flintstone Media. If you are interested in getting your podcast off the ground, whether you are a private individual like myself who has a very interesting topic that you want to talk more about, or if you're a business that wants to create a podcast to get your message out, Flintstone Media are the people for you. Jemmy and her team will do their absolute best to make sure you sound fantastic. And you can find out more information about them at flintstonemedia.com. We are also on pretty much every single podcasting app you can think of. We are on Apple Podcasts, we're on iHeart, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, everywhere you can think of. You can follow the Florida Beer Podcast, and I recommend that you do so. Go ahead and follow us. Make sure to subscribe. And if you can, give us a great 5-star review, because that really does help get the word out to other craft beer interested people. Our intro announcer is Jeff Brozovich. Field producer is Steve Piccola. Executive producer for Flintstone Media and Grand High Poobah is Jemmy Lagonier. This is Dave, your host and author. We will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening, and drink Florida Craft.